Welcome to Vanguard, where humans aren't the underdogs. We're the endgame. Enjoy the journey. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council was never truly silent, but tonight it came close. 200 species occupied the vast, tiered hall, their forms as diverse as the stars themselves. Some delegates shimmered with bioluminescent skin. Others breathed through spiracles that pulsed softly with each measured exhale. There were beings of crystal and light, creatures wrapped in fur and feathers, and entities encased in thick, armored plates. Normally, their murmurs blended into a constant hum of whispers, translations, and subtle energy signatures. Tonight, that hum faded as a single figure crossed the central floor. Zethor moved on 4 slender, jointed legs, his insectoid body low to the ground in a posture of enforced humility. In one smaller manipulator arm, he carried a data crystal no larger than a clenched fist, yet its weight felt unbearable. The object contained everything the Council feared, and everything they refused to understand. Every compound eye, sensor node, and perception field in the chamber followed him. At the center platform, Zethor stopped. The projection spire rose before him like a thin blade of light. For a moment he hesitated, then he inserted the crystal. A hologram bloomed above the chamber, blue, green, and painfully ordinary. "Earth," Zethor said, his voice clicking through the translator lattice. A third-generation oxygen world on the fringe of Council map space. Technologically classified as pre-interstellar, politically fragmented, militarily primitive. A ripple of low reactions passed through the hall. "They fight among themselves," Zethor continued. "They possess no unified planetary government. Their fastest vessels cannot reach beyond their own moon. Their most powerful weapons rely on uncontrolled fission reactions. By every model in our archives, they should be irrelevant." He paused. 7 invasion fleets have entered this system over the last 50 standard years. The holograms shifted. 7 clusters of red symbols appeared, each labeled with a different empire seal. 7 fleets, Zethor said quietly. None have returned. The chamber erupted. A reptilian delegate rose abruptly, scales flaring along his spine. "Impossible. Even a failed conquest leaves debris. Distress beacons, escape craft, something." "Nothing," Zethor replied. "No distress calls, no wreckage, no radiation signatures consistent with fleet-scale destruction. Each fleet entered the Earth system and vanished." Whispers surged into frightened noise. A floating sphere of pale light drifted forward. Its voice chimed like breaking glass. "Perhaps the forces sent were insufficient. Small patrol groups, minor task forces." Zethor inclined his head. "The first fleet numbered 50 warships, the second 120, the third over 300. Each subsequent force exceeded the last in scale and firepower." The numbers changed in the hologram. "The 7th fleet," Zethor said, "comprised 800 capital-class vessels, enough to sterilize a developed world." The reptilian delegate slowly sank back into his seat. For a long moment, only the sound of the chamber's ancient energy conduits filled the air. Then Zethor raised one clawed limb. "There is one anomaly." The hologram flickered. Static exploded across the projection field. Distorted visuals tore through the air. The interior of a bridge, fractured by energy surges. Screaming symbols. Translation errors. A silhouette of a towering bipedal figure briefly visible through smoke. Audio cut in, raw and broken. "They're learning us," a voice cried out. "Turn it off! Shut it!" The signal collapsed into white noise. Several delegates recoiled. One avian species folded its wings tight in a panic response. A crystalline being cracked along its outer facets. "That transmission," Zethor said, "was recovered from the final moments of the 5th Fleet. It is the only evidence of any kind that the fleets were not merely destroyed." The words hung in the air like poison. They were studied. Fear spread like a contagion. The council leader rose. She was a towering entity of living crystal, her form refracting light into shifting prisms across the chamber walls. When she spoke, the translators barely kept pace. "If Earth is truly primitive," she said, "then something else operates within that system. A hidden guardian, a precursor weapon, an ancient defense grid." Zethor shook his head. "Long-range scans show no advanced infrastructure beyond what the humans themselves have built. There is no hidden empire, no dormant machine intelligence. Earth is alone." "Then how," demanded the reptilian delegate, rising again, "does a divided, backward species erase entire invasion fleets from existence?" No one answered. From the highest tier of the chamber, armor scraped against stone, a massive figure stepped forward. General Krathfor of the Crowhawk Empire stood well over 3 times the height of most delegates. His body was wrapped in layered plates of blackened war armor, scarred by decades of conquest. His eyes burned with the cold confidence of a species that had never known true defeat. "The answer is simple," Krathfor rumbled. "The other 7 fleets were weak." Murmurs rippled. They hesitated. They underestimated. They followed rules meant for civilized wars. His gaze swept across the chamber. "The Crowhawk Empire does not make such mistakes." Zethor felt a chill ripple through his exoskeleton. "In the last 10 years alone," Krathfor continued, "we have conquered 12 inhabited worlds. We will send a proper force, 1,000 warships, our best commanders, our full doctrine." The council leader regarded him silently. "You will investigate," she said at last, "not conquer. You will transmit continuous intelligence, and you will follow first contact protocol." Krathfor's mandibles flexed in something that might have been a smile. "Of course." Zethor saw the lie immediately. The council vote was swift. Fear outweighed caution. Curiosity outweighed wisdom. The Crowhawk Empire was authorized. That night, alone in his quarters, Zethor could not rest. He replayed the distorted transmission again and again. The panic in the unknown voice. The words that refused to leave his mind. "They're learning us." He opened a secure intelligence channel and typed a message that could end his career or his life. "Request authorization for covert deployment of quantum surveillance drones aboard Crowhawk invasion vessels." The response did not come for 2 full cycles. When it did, it came from the council leader herself. Approved, quietly. Zethor worked through the rotational night. 6 drones, no larger than fragments of debris, were modified with adaptive camouflage and independent quantum transmitters. Each could survive even the destruction of its host vessel, long enough to transmit its final data burst. 3 weeks later, at the edge of Council space, the Crowhawk Armada assembled. 1,000 warships darkened the stars. They formed perfect battle arrays, layers of overlapping shields, weapon spines glowing with restrained stellar fire. It was a force meant not merely to conquer, but to terrify entire civilizations into surrender. Zethor watched from a distant observation platform as his drones detached from maintenance vessels and slipped unnoticed into the armored underbellies of 6 separate Crowhawk ships. No alarm sounded. No one noticed. Confidence made the Crowhawks blind. General Krathfor stood on the bridge of his flagship as the fleet aligned for jump. "Set course," he commanded. "Destination, Earth." Space itself bent. In one blinding pulse of distorted reality, the entire armada vanished. Zethor returned to his quarters and activated the drone feeds. 6 simultaneous perspectives appeared before him. Engine rooms vibrating with restrained power. Command bridges filled with disciplined officers. Weapon arrays locked and ready. A countdown began. 3 hours to Earth. As the timer bled down, Zethor found his thoughts drifting. Not to the Crowhawks, but to the humans. What kind of species argued across thousands of frequencies while a hostile armada approached their world? What kind of civilization launched lawsuits at an invading military force? What kind of beings adapted fast enough to terrify empires that spanned star systems? The timer hit 0. Reality unfolded. The Crowhawk fleet emerged into normal space at the edge of the Earth system. Zethor leaned closer to the screens, and for the first time, He saw humanity not as data, but as a living, chaotic storm waiting beneath a thin layer of blue sky. Whatever had consumed 7 fleets before this one, it was about to awaken again. Space rippled as the Crowhawk Armada completed its transition into the Sol system. 1,000 warships emerged like a synchronized storm, their hulls glowing with residual jump energy. The ships formed ranks automatically, shields interlocking in a shimmering lattice of power. General Krathfor stood at the reinforced viewport of his flagship, mandibles tight with anticipation. At last, he murmured, the primitive world. He expected fear. He expected chaos. He did not expect this. General, the communications officer said, brow plates flexing in confusion. We are receiving transmissions, thousands of them. Directed at us? No, General. Directed at each other. The entire bridge paused. Krathfor turned, slowly. Explain, the officer swallowed. Human signals span the entire electromagnetic spectrum. Dozens of languages. They appear to be in dispute. Zethor's drone feed captured everything. The data streams, the broken translations, the disbelief spreading across the Crowhawk Bridge. The comm system flooded with human voices. The government should. That's not what the military said. You're all idiots. The aliens aren't even. Switch the channel. I'm watching a cooking show. Shut up. I'm telling you the Earth is flat. The aliens will confirm. Krathfor blinked. Are they arguing? Yes, General. While we are invading? Yes, General. For the first time since the fleet departed, a ripple of amusement passed through the bridge crew. Pathetic, Krathfor scoffed. Transmit the surrender demand, all frequencies. The message carried across every human communication band. Attention, Earth. You will surrender immediately to the Crowhawk Empire. A moment of silence followed. Then humanity answered. And it was not fear, not diplomacy, not even clarity. It was the most chaotic, multilingual avalanche of defiance the galaxy had ever heard. No. No thanks. Come and try it. You picked the wrong planet. Bro, shut up. Eat nuclear fire, Birdman. A middle finger emoji. 3 separate memes. Someone singing. The translation matrix struggled. Several Crowhawk officers stared in stunned paralysis. General, the communications officer whispered, This is not how any species responds to a surrender demand. Krathfor strode to the console. Where are their leaders? Their unified authority? There is no unified authority, General. They have nearly 200 governments, and all of them are responding differently. You mean to tell me, Krathfor growled, that they cannot agree on surrendering? They cannot agree on anything, General. He let out a long, strained exhale. Show me their defenses. The tactical screen filled with red indicators, missile silos, naval groups, air bases, armored divisions, all activating simultaneously, not coherently, not strategically, just wildly. General, the tactical officer said, every nation is targeting us, independently. Krathfor frowned. Independently? That is not possible. They are not coordinating with each other, but they are all aiming at us. Zethor, watching from light years away through his drone feed, felt a cold tremor along his limbs. They unite against an outside threat, even when they can't unite at all. The comm officer interrupted. General, they are sending video. Krathfor motioned for it to display. The screen erupted into a flood of live streams. Humans gathered on rooftops, pointing smartphones at the sky. News anchors shouting over each other. Civilians waving flags. Teenagers recording reaction videos. Politicians yelling into microphones. A man grilling barbecue while saying, "They better not blow up my yard." Krathfor stared. What is this? General, the science officer said softly, I believe they are broadcasting their reactions for entertainment. Krathfor's mandibles twitched. Destroy something. Anything. One of their orbital machines. A lower-ranking officer hesitated. General, that may provoke. Krathfor raised a claw. We are not negotiating with primitives. Fire. A beam of concentrated energy stabbed across space. A human communications satellite shattered into glittering debris. The Crowhawk Bridge waited expectantly. Panic, fear, silence. Instead, the comm channels exploded with fury. That was private property. Who's paying for that? Send them the bill. They're vandalizing infrastructure. Lawyers online in 5 minutes. Let's go. The communications officer stiffened. General, 17 human legal systems have filed lawsuits against us. Kratfor's armor plates clicked sharply. What is a lawsuit? A legal grievance, General. A formal accusation of wrongdoing. We are invading their planet. Why are they filing paperwork? Zethor, even through the drone feed, felt second-hand shock radiating through the entire Crowhawk command deck. Then the situation accelerated. On Earth, military bases lit up. Missile launchers rose from bunkers. Submarines surfaced and opened payload doors. Dozens, hundreds of exhaust flares appeared as rockets launched skyward. General, the tactical officer shouted, multiple missile launches detected. Primitive weapons, Krathfor scoffed. Let the shields absorb them. The first wave of missiles slammed uselessly against Crowhawk's shielding. Not one ship took damage. See, Krathfor said. Pat, another wave, then another, then a third. Different trajectories, decoys, low-orbit split patterns. General, the tactical officer said slowly, they are adjusting their attacks between every volley. Krathfor paused. Adjusting? Already? Yes, they're learning. Seconds later, cyber warfare alerts flashed across the fleet. We are under digital attack, the systems officer shouted. Human networks are infiltrating our systems. Impossible, Krathfor snapped. Our encryption is unbreakable. They aren't breaking it, General. They're overwhelming it with volume. Millions of attack vectors, some sophisticated, others crude. They're mixing techniques, testing everything, improvising. Cut all external links, Krathfor ordered. Isolate fleet networks. The attacks stopped for 10 seconds. Then a new problem erupted. General, the communications officer said, voice cracking, the humans are transmitting noise. Noise? Yes, music, advertisements, memes, random conversations, broadcasts of something called reality TV. They are saturating every comm frequency. The bridge lights dimmed under the overload. Fleet-wide communication devolved into static and fragments of human audio. Filter it, Krathfor barked. We do, General. They change signals every minute. They are adapting to our filters in real time. Krathfor clenched his armored fists. Enough. We will demonstrate power. Move us into low orbit. The fleet descended. That was when the first human fighter wave appeared. Primitive jets clawing upward through atmosphere. Heat signatures blazing. Dozens, hundreds, thousands. How many fighters do they possess? Krathfor demanded. We don't know, General. Our estimate is at least 50,000 and rising. Zethor's drones captured the terrible realization spreading through the Crowhawk command structure. The humans were not stalling. They were testing. The humans were not panicking. They were coordinating, imperfectly, chaotically, but relentlessly. And then, the moment that would haunt Krathfor for the rest of his life, a chunk of steel, just a piece of human orbital junk, struck Ship 447 at hypersonic velocity. A crude projectile. No engine, no guidance. It cracked armor plating and sent the ship spinning. Mass drivers, the tactical officer whispered. The humans are throwing rocks at us. Krathfor stared in disbelief. This is not strategy, he growled. This is madness. No, General, the science officer said quietly. This is persistence. Zethor, observing from across the stars, felt the final click of understanding lock into place. Humans are not organized. They are not consistent. They are not predictable. But they are relentless. And the Crowhawk fleet, proud, disciplined, invincible, had just discovered something the Council had never understood. Humanity did not fear power. Humanity adapted to it. Humanity learned from it. And humanity was only getting started. The war that was supposed to last minutes stretched into hours, then hours into days. By the end of the first rotation, General Kraftfor realized something had gone terribly wrong. Not with his fleet's firepower, but with every assumption he had ever made about war. Day one began with confidence. Human missiles struck again and again, bursting uselessly against Crowhawk shields. Fighter squadrons rose in desperate waves, only to be carved out of the sky by flawless point defense beams. Human losses mounted rapidly, thousands of aircraft reduced to burning streaks that fell back through the atmosphere. By every measurable standard, the Crowhawks were winning. But the humans did not retreat. They threw everything they had, and when they ran out, they built more. Factories across Earth shifted to full wartime production within hours. Automotive plants retooled for missile casings. Civilian drone companies converted their lines to produce swarm platforms. Entire civilian shipping fleets were repurposed as mobile launch platforms at sea. Even private corporations joined the war, competing openly over who could deliver new hardware to the front the fastest. Zethor watched in growing disbelief. They do not mobilize like empires, he realized. They mobilize like an ecosystem under threat. By the end of day one, the humans had learned three critical things: the frequency of Crowhawk shields, the response time of point defense systems, and the kill radius of energy lances. It should have taken them years. It took them hours. On day two, the attacks changed. The second wave of missiles did not target ships directly. Instead, they saturated narrow shield sections in concentrated bursts, forcing localized overexertion. Decoy swarms followed seconds behind, overwhelming point defense grids. Hypersonic strike craft slipped through newly exposed microgaps and struck support vessels, not to destroy them, but to gather data. Wreckage was retrieved within minutes. Every destroyed fighter became a research package. Every fallen pilot became a lesson. That was when the Crowhawks lost their first capital ship. Not to overwhelming firepower, to focused pressure. A support cruiser had its shields burned down in one concentrated arc. 3 human kinetic rods, simple metal slugs accelerated to obscene velocities, punched straight through its reactor housing. The resulting detonation ripped the vessel apart from the inside. Kraftfor watched the explosion in silent shock. "One ship," he muttered. "They took down one ship." The science officer did not share his relief. "They should not have been able to do that," she whispered. "Not this soon." Zethor's drones captured the shift across the Crowhawk fleet, the slow replacement of confidence with uncertainty. Then came the first orbital strike on Earth. Kraftfor authorized it after an entire human city converted itself into a live ammunition factory. A beam of stellar energy lanced downward, carving a crater over a kilometer wide into the continental surface. Satellite feeds showed streets vaporized in white fire, hospitals flattened, emergency sirens howling across the ruins. Thousands of humans died in minutes. Kraftfor expected surrender. Instead, Earth went silent for exactly 12 minutes. Then every previously neutral nation declared war. Strategic arsenals, long hidden from public knowledge, came online. Weapons designed for wars that never happened were aimed skyward instead. Military rivalries that had endured for centuries collapsed overnight into tactical alliances. The humans did not respond with despair. They responded with rage. On day 3, humanity stopped reacting and started hunting. Attacks no longer arrived randomly. They came in layered patterns: feints, probes, concentrated breaches, followed by rapid extraction. Fighter squadrons flew into certain death without hesitation, not for victory, but for information. Unmanned drones studied Crowhawk response timing to the microsecond. Cyber attacks became precise rather than chaotic. The Crowhawks were being dissected. "General," the science officer said, voice tight with dread, "they are reverse engineering our defenses in real time. They are mapping failure points faster than our own engineers can predict them." "That is impossible," Krathfor growled. She turned her data display toward him. They have reduced shield collapse time by 43% in 72 hours. Krathfor said nothing. Then the humans launched something new. Not missiles, not fighters, people, civilians. Hackers operating from underground bunkers punched through auxiliary control nodes that were never meant to face direct cyber intrusion. Amateur radio operators hijacked Crowhawk battlefield telemetry with signals so erratic the fleet's logic cores struggled to filter them. Independent engineers flooded the void with improvised electromagnetic distorters that blinded targeting arrays for seconds at a time, just long enough for strike craft to get through. The Crowhawks were not losing ships in droves, but they were being bled in 1,000 invisible cuts. "General," the tactical officer whispered, "they are not fighting to defeat us. They are fighting to understand us." Zethor felt his circulatory fluid run cold. Every attack is an experiment, he realized. Every failure, a data point. Another capital ship fell. Then another. Not to brute force, but to refined understanding. By the end of the third day, humanity had penetrated Crowhawk shields in controlled sectors, hijacked secondary sensor networks, and synchronized multi-angle assaults precise enough to overwhelm point defense grids for exactly 1.7 seconds at a time. Just long enough. Krathfor stared at the tactical projections, mandibles trembling for the first time in his career. "They adapt," he whispered, "faster than any species I have ever faced." The science officer stepped closer. "General, I believe I understand why." She pulled up a biological schematic. Humans evolved not as apex predators, but as persistence hunters. On their world, they did not overpower prey through speed or strength. They chased it, for hours, for days, until it collapsed from exhaustion. She met his gaze. "General, that is exactly what they are doing to us." Zethor replayed the footage in his private quarters. 3 days. 72 hours. 7 technological breakthroughs extracted from Crowhawk hardware. Entire combat doctrines rewritten overnight. And every loss, their own or the enemy's, fed into the next assault like fuel for a fire that only burned brighter. They are not trying to win yet, Zethor understood. They are preparing. Krathfor stood alone on the bridge of his flagship as another proximity alert flashed across his command display. He was still winning. Statistically, numerically, the Crowhawk fleet still dwarfed Earth's forces in raw firepower. But deep in the core of his warrior's instincts, far beneath pride and doctrine, something old and terrible had awakened. Fear, not of destruction, but of inevitability. The humans would not surrender. They would not tire. And if given enough time, they would learn how to kill gods. The fourth day began not with an explosion, but with a transmission. A small object detached from Earth's orbit and drifted slowly toward the Crowhawk fleet. It was barely larger than a human escape capsule, its surface scorched and uneven, propulsion systems flickering with unstable thrust. No weapon signature, no shield harmonics, no hostile targeting lock, just a single, repeated broadcast across every Crowhawk frequency. "We request dialogue." General Krathfor stared at the projection in silence. "They send a coffin," one of his officers muttered. "They send an insult," another whispered. Krathfor raised a claw. "Tractor it aboard, gently." The vessel was pulled into the flagship's docking bay under full weapons lock. Internal containment shields flared as the hatch cycled open. 3 figures stepped out. 2 men, 1 woman. Their pressure suits were patched, scorched, smeared with soot and dried blood. They looked exhausted, dark circles beneath their eyes, shoulders sagging from sleepless days. But they were not afraid. The woman removed her helmet first. "I am Dr. Sarah Chen," she said evenly. "We represent the Human Defense Coalition." Krathfor loomed over her, towering and silent. "Are you here to surrender?" he asked. "No," she replied without hesitation. "We're here to make you leave." A ripple of hostile disbelief moved through the bridge. Krathfor let out a low, rumbling laugh. "You have lost thousands of fighters. Entire cities burn. Your weapons barely scratch our hulls. And you dare give ultimatums? Dr. Chen met his gaze without flinching. Yes, Cratfor gestured. Explain. She raised a data pad and set it on the central table. The display activated. What appeared was not propaganda. It was industry. Global production charts, factory outputs, materials acquisition pipelines, reactor capacities, ammunition generation rates, drone replication lines, logistics chains spanning continents. All our civilian manufacturing has been converted, she said calmly. Every non-essential economy on Earth is now a weapons economy. Our output increases by 13% every 12 hours. Crathforce scoffed. Meaningless. You produce junk faster. She switched to tactical overlays, missile saturation models, shield collapse timings, point defense exhaustion curves. In 2 weeks, she continued, our focused fire payloads will reliably breach your capital shielding without suicide losses. In 4 weeks, we will begin sustained hull penetration operations fleet-wide. The science officer leaned closer to the projection, eyes widening. These figures, she whispered, they're accurate. Dr. Chen nodded. We know your shield frequencies. We know your response thresholds. We know how many decoys it takes to blind your targeting arrays and exactly how long that blindness lasts. Cratfor's mandibles tightened. And if I destroy your planet before those weeks pass, Dr. Chen's voice softened. Then you will leave this system with nothing but ash. No prisoners, no technology, no answers, no victory. Only the knowledge that you spent 1,000 warships to erase a species that never surrendered. One of the men beside her stepped forward. Your mission was reconnaissance, he said. Return with nothing, and you will be remembered as the general who lost everything for pride. The bridge fell into a tense stillness. Cratfor's voice dropped to a whisper. You assume I care what the council remembers. Dr. Chen tilted her head. You care that they sent you to solve a mystery, not to create a scandal that echoes across the galaxy. She deactivated the table display. We are not offering surrender, she said. We are offering you survival with dignity. Crathfor stared at the 3 humans. And why, he growled, do you not simply continue your attacks? Dr. Chen held his gaze. Because we don't want to kill you, she said. We want you gone. Silence followed. Zethor watched the entire confrontation unfold through his hidden drone embedded in the command ceiling. For the first time, he felt something deeper than fear, respect. The humans were not posturing. They were not bluffing. They were calculating an outcome where the enemy survived, because extinction was not required for victory. The humans were escorted back to their vessel. Crathfor returned to his war room, his officers waiting in tense formation. They insult you, one snarled. Let us burn their world. They threaten you, another said. Erase them. Cratfor remained silent. Then the fleet alarms screamed. 1 ship, then 3, then 7, dropped from formation without warning. Reactor shutdowns, system failures, weapons offline, life support stable. General, the tactical officer shouted. Multiple ships reporting total control loss. Sabotage? Crathfor demanded. The systems officer's voice shook. Yes, but not destructive. It's surgical. They disabled firing matrices and navigation control cores without causing permanent damage. More alerts cascaded in. 20 ships drifted powerless in space. Then a message appeared across the central command display. We could have killed you. We chose not to. Cratfor stared at it. For the first time in decades, he felt uncertainty crack his certainty. He summoned his senior officers. 7 fleets were sent here before us, he said slowly. None returned. Now I understand why. His officers shifted uneasily. These humans do not fight to win territory, Crathfor continued. They fight to ensure the cost of conquest becomes unbearable. They do not aim for annihilation first. They aim for inevitability. He turned toward the viewport, where Earth burned blue and green beneath the silent war. If we stay, he said, they will cripple us piece by piece. And when we finally fall, they will know exactly how to kill the next fleet that comes. A long pause followed. Then he gave the order that would echo through Crowhawk history. Prepare the fleet for withdrawal. A few officers protested. The council demanded answers. I have our answer, Krathvor snapped. Humans are not prey. They are predators that grow stronger with every failed hunt. As the fleet began its slow realignment for jump, human fighters appeared around disabled Crowhawk ships, not firing, not threatening, only watching. A new transmission followed. We will repair your damaged vessels. Your crews will be returned safely. All we require is your departure. Krathvor closed his eyes. Except, over the next 3 days, human engineering teams boarded Crowhawk hulls under truce conditions. They worked with calm efficiency, restoring navigation control, stabilizing reactors, and returning captured crews unharmed. When the last disabled warship regained minimal function, the human message came one final time. Tell the galaxy humans want peace, but we will not be hunted. The Crowhawk armada jumped away. They did not leave as conquerors. They left as witnesses. The return of the Crowhawk fleet sent shockwaves across council space. They arrived not as triumphant conquerors, but as battered survivors. Their hulls were scorched, their formation uneven. Nearly 20 warships drifted behind the main armada under emergency tow, scarred but intact, crippled, not destroyed. For the first time in recorded history, a Crowhawk invasion force had returned without victory. The Galactic Council reconvened under emergency protocols. Every seat was filled. Every observer bay overflowed. When General Krathvor stepped into the Grand Chamber, the noise dropped instantly. The same towering warlord who had left in pride now walked with measured restraint. His armor still bore the scars of Earth's defense. Burn marks, fracture lines, places where human weapons had learned how to hurt him. I am alive, he said at the center platform. My fleet survived, but we did not conquer Earth. A shocked murmur rippled across the chamber. The reptilian delegate rose again, disbelief etched into every scale. You had 1,000 warships. How did primitives stop you? Krathvor's gaze hardened. They did not stop us with power, he said. They stopped us with learning. Every time we struck, they adapted. Every time we destroyed one of their weapons, they built a better one. They did not try to defeat us quickly. They tried to make certain that, in time, we could not survive. Silence followed. Then the council leader spoke. Intelligence Officer Zethor, she said, crystalline voice echoing. You placed surveillance units aboard the Crowhawk fleet. Show us what you recorded. Zethor's limbs felt heavy as he approached the projection spire. He activated the crystal. Holographic footage unfolded across the chamber, humans swarming damaged Crowhawk vessels, technicians in pressure suits crawling through alien engineering shafts, scientists disassembling shield generators with hands that moved too confidently for a so-called primitive species. This, Zethor said quietly, is why the 7 fleets vanished. The projection shifted. Records reconstructed from old council archives merged with Zethor's drone data. The first fleet, 50 years ago, had entered the Sol system when humanity had only primitive satellites. Their energy weapons should have been unstoppable. Instead, human nuclear warheads, modified with captured alien components, tore through the fleet in a violent storm of radiation and debris. The second fleet arrived 10 years later, stronger, shielded. Humans learned how to hack their weapon control systems and turned Crowhawk-style targeting logic against them. The third fleet brought layered defenses. Humans captured entire ships, studied them, copied them, improved them. Gasps echoed across the chamber as images of hybrid human vessels filled the air. Ugly patchwork designs combining incompatible alien technologies into something entirely new. They should not work, whispered the sphere being of light. They do, Zethor replied, because humans do not fear broken designs. They iterate until failure becomes impossible. The footage continued. Alien prisoners held not in brutal containment cells, but in clean facilities. They were given medical care, nutrition calibrated to their biology, Some were even paid for technical instruction. One alien engineer appeared on screen, speaking freely into a human recording device. "They gave me a choice," the alien said. "Return home after the war, or stay and help them understand the reactor systems." I stayed. They treat me better than my own empire did. An uproar filled the council chamber. "They bribe prisoners?" the reptilian demanded. "They recruit them," Zethor corrected, "through dignity." The records showed entire research teams, humans and former invaders working side by side. Shield generators dissected, warp theory deconstructed and rebuilt with human mathematics layered on top. "Each invasion," Zethor said, "has made them stronger." He switched displays. Long-range sensor data appeared. Dozens of small human probe ships slipping quietly into near space, mapping the jump routes used by invading fleets, recording spatial distortions, tracing navigational corridors backward toward council space. "They are learning how to reach us." Fear thundered through the chamber like a physical force. "If they arrive here," one delegate began. "They will not arrive as primitives," Zethor finished. "They will arrive as students who graduated through war." The council leader raised both crystalline arms. "Enough. We face reality." Three options illuminated above her. 1. Total extermination of Earth. 2. Strategic isolation and erasure of records. 3. First contact as equals. The chamber fractured into chaos. "They are too dangerous to live. They are too divided to be trusted. They will bring instability to the galaxy." Zethor stepped forward again. "If we choose extermination," he said, "we will need tens of thousands of warships, and humanity will not stop fighting even as their world burns. They will scatter their knowledge among the stars before the last city falls. Every system we use against them will be learned. If we hide," he continued, "they will find us eventually. Their curiosity alone ensures that." He met the council leader's gaze. "The only path that does not end in catastrophe is dialogue." The chamber fell quiet. General Krathvor spoke once more, his voice heavier than before. "There are species you should not hunt, not because they are stronger, but because they will never stop hunting back." The vote that followed was not unanimous, but it was decisive. A diplomatic mission would be sent, not a fleet, not a threat. An apology. Zethor was chosen to lead it. He accepted in silence, knowing exactly what risk that choice carried. He had studied the humans long enough to understand their contradictions, capable of immense violence, yet fiercely protective of those they called their own. Prone to war, yet dreaming endlessly of peace. In the days that followed, the Crowhawk prisoners were quietly repatriated. Some left Earth willingly, others refused. They had chosen their new world. Zethor boarded the diplomatic vessel alone one cycle before departure. He studied human history through the long night, wars without end, civilizations rising and collapsing, art born from suffering, and science forged in desperation. The more he learned, the more a terrifying truth solidified in his mind. Humanity did not become dangerous because it wanted to be. It became dangerous because survival demanded it. As the vessel prepared to leave council space, Zethor gazed at the stars and whispered a thought he dared not speak aloud. If they had been born among us, they would already rule us. The diplomatic ship aligned its jump drive. Destination, Earth. The diplomatic vessel entered the Sol system at a fraction of standard approach speed. Zethor had insisted on it. No sudden transitions, no aggressive maneuvering, no mistakes. The moment the ship emerged from jump space, human sensors detected it. Fighter patrols were already moving before the diplomatic broadcast finished transmitting. Sleek, angular crafts surrounded Zethor's vessel at a cautious distance. Targeting locks flickered across his hull, not hostile but unmistakably ready. Zethor stood in the central communication chamber. "This is Zethor of the Galactic Council," he transmitted on every known human band. "We come without weapons. We request dialogue." The response was not immediate. For 47 seconds, nothing happened. Then a calm, steady human voice answered. "This is Admiral Jang of the Human Defense Coalition. Understand this clearly, Ambassador Zethor. The last 8 alien fleets to enter this system tried to conquer us. If this is deception, your species will not get another chance. I understand, Zethor replied, and we accept that risk. A brief silence followed. You may proceed to the International Space Station. One ship only. No escorts. Zethor exhaled slowly. The diplomatic vessel moved forward. At the station, security was absolute. Human soldiers in sealed combat armor surrounded every corridor. Weapons systems hummed quietly in standby. Scanners peeled through Zethor's biology layer by layer. No hostility, but no trust either. At last, he was escorted into the negotiation chamber. 12 humans waited inside. Military leaders, civilian authorities, corporate representatives, scientists, and among them, Dr. Sarah Chen. She looked older. Exhaustion marked her face. War had carved lines into her expression. Ambassador Zethor, she said flatly, you have 5 minutes to explain why we shouldn't treat this as another invasion attempt. Zethor activated his holographic projector. The image that filled the room was not Earth. It was the Galactic Council. He showed them everything. The fear, the debates, the 7 vanished fleets, the Crowhawk retreat. Our council did not attack you because you were weak, Zethor said quietly. We attacked you because you were unpredictable, divided, aggressive. We feared what you might become. Admiral Zhang folded his arms. So you tried to kill us before we got the chance. Yes, Zethor admitted. That was the logic. Dr. Chen's voice hardened. That is the logic of bullies. Zethor bowed his head. A human child said the same thing to me once. She was right. The room went still. Zethor continued. You defeated 8 invasion attempts, not through superior technology, but through adaptability, persistence, and restraint. You let our enemies live. You treated prisoners with dignity. You learned from every battle without seeking annihilation. He changed the hologram. Threats filled the room. Pirate coalitions, rogue artificial intelligences, expanding dark space anomalies, uncharted war civilizations beyond council borders. The galaxy is more dangerous than we ever allowed you to know, he said. And we are no longer certain we can survive it without you. Silence lingered. Then Dr. Chen asked quietly, what are you offering? Membership, Zethor said. Full inclusion in the Galactic Council. Not as subjects, as equals. A murmur passed through the human delegation. You tried to conquer us 8 times, Admiral Zhang said. Now you want us as partners? Yes. Dr. Chen studied Zethor for a long moment. Then she said, we have conditions. Zethor inclined his body. Name them. First, all prisoners from previous wars, alien or human, must be returned. Freely, no conditions. Anyone who chooses to stay on Earth may do so without retaliation. Zethor nodded. Agreed. Second, Earth remains fully sovereign. No forced governance, no imposed law. Standard protocol, Zethor said. Third, Dr. Chen said, eyes sharp, we want full access to council technology. No restrictions, no sealed archives. If we join, we don't join blind. Several council diplomats would have fainted at that demand. But Zethor already understood the truth. You will learn it anyway, he said calmly. You always do. I will recommend full technological exchange, on the condition that humanity shares its innovations as well. Dr. Chen smiled faintly. Deal. Negotiations continued for hours. Treaties were drafted, safeguards written, boundaries defined. At the end, both sides stood exhausted, but something unfamiliar hovered in the room. Hope. As the delegation prepared to depart, a young human girl stepped forward. Her mother, one of the civilian diplomats, followed behind her nervously. Mr. Zethor, the child asked. Yes? Why did your people attack us 8 times before saying hello? The question struck harder than any weapon. Zethor knelt carefully to meet her eye level. Because we were afraid of what we did not understand, he answered. And afraid people often try to destroy things instead of learning them. That's dumb, the child said. Yes, Zethor replied softly. It is. The girl nodded, satisfied. and returned to her mother's side. Dr. Chen watched the exchange quietly. "Children don't complicate things," she said. "That's our job." "I am beginning to understand why your species frightens us," Zethor said. "Good," she replied. "Fear keeps you honest." 5 years passed. Humanity did not change the galaxy slowly. It changed it explosively. Human engineers rewrote shield harmonics to adapt in real time. Human scientists solved physics problems that had stalled alien research for centuries, simply by asking different questions. Human traders disrupted stagnant economies by linking distant systems through aggressive logistics and ruthless efficiency. One mathematician, Dr. James Wong, solved a gravitational instability equation that alien scientists had failed to crack for 300 years. When asked how he succeeded, he simply said, "I stopped assuming the math was right." That became humanity's reputation. They did not accept old answers. They rewrote them. At the 5-year mark, the council held its final vote. Provisional status would end. Permanent membership would be decided. The vote was unanimous. Humanity was welcomed as a full member of the Galactic Council. At the ceremony, Dr. Sarah Chen stood beside Zethor, beneath the towering crystalline spires. "We did it," she said. "Enemies to allies." "You forgave us," Zethor replied. "That took more strength than we expected." She smiled slightly. "Holding grudges is expensive. Cooperation scales better." The council leader raised her radiant form. "Today we welcome humanity as equals. They bring innovation through adversity, strength through adaptation, and wisdom forged in survival. The galaxy is safer because they stand among us." Dr. Chen stepped forward. "Humans are explorers," she said. "We look at the stars and ask, what's next? Now we have an answer." She paused, then added with a half-smile, "But if anyone else tries to invade Earth, we will respond just as efficiently as before." Laughter rippled through the chamber. Even the warlords laughed. Later that night, Zethor returned to his quarters and began writing his final report. 8 invasions, millions dead, trillions spent, all born from fear. But now, human and alien children studied together. Joint fleets patrolled against pirates. Shared research stations pushed into unexplored space. The galaxy had not become peaceful. It had become balanced. In a secure human facility on Earth, a quiet meeting took place far from public view. A holographic star map flickered to life. A human officer studied it and said calmly, "Now we know where they all come from." No tone of conquest. No hunger for revenge. Only certainty. If the galaxy ever turned hostile again, humanity would not be caught unprepared. Zethor saved his report and gazed at the stars through the station viewport. On a small blue-green world far away, humans were looking up at those same stars. For the first time in history, neither side was alone, and everything had changed.